often want to be confident that the way data collected or being activated, that there are no potential risks for consumers, and and there's compliance with ethical standards. For this purpose, in our group AIM, we've developed the first ever application. It's called Ethical Code of Data, which helps one quickly to 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 establish ethical risks for collection of data for every specific occasion. Another important initiative that in our group AIM that I'd like to talk about is the initiative and the launch of the data of the choreographic company, which unites all the expertise in the as far as data in our company, and it helps us to develop right strategy for data. This, in a nutshell, what I wanted to say about what's been happening in our industry. Of course, we only touched upon and mentioned most important trends. All these trends and the challenges of new reality essentially are taking us to a new model of the agency, the agency of the future. And also, I would like to devote a few minutes and to talk to you about the way we see this as a group M. In our view, the modern agency needs to be flexible, multifunctional platform, a kind of marketplace, you might say. Let's use this trendy word for our customers, where our customers, depending on their objectives and priorities and needs, could choose the right set of functionality, including unconventional familiar areas such as e-commerce, offline retail, and promotions and other solutions, quick and effective creation of content, including developing and the production of creative content. Partnership is really important. Partnership and integration with the major ecosystem for our customers, and of course, solutions in the area of data that I was just telling you about. And all these have a lot of impact on the way we need to change the understanding of expertise in our modern times. As I was talking at one of the conferences that our employees ourselves are becoming product managers and logistics specialists. So we're actively pushing the boundaries. So our job is to be multifaceted, both in terms of our knowledge and in terms of our flexibility, knowing how to quickly adapt ourselves to meet the tasks of our customers. And here, of course, we get tools to help us to set up effective, active teams and process task managers, advanced HR analytics, new approaches to quick development of ideas for products. And it's not a secret, we've been actively engaged in doing this by deploying new methods of work, training our employees with the new methods of work. We're setting up flexible, agile units, promoting new expertise, and of course, we automate everything we can to automate today. Some of these ideas are quite close to reality. Others will take a while to get there, but our direction of our journey is quite obvious to us. Also, I'd like to remind you at one of the innovative offers of our group, which continue to develop, which is specialized agency Content Plus, based on Mindshare. The team led by Oleg Timurov, who will be speaking to us at this conference, is capable of providing to their customers full range of services, digital strategies and creative production of content, as well as solutions to e-commerce and retail, including modern promotional mechanics. Maybe I could boast a little. In the case of Content Plus, and other partners have received Effie awards and other global awards many times for the effectiveness of the innovative solutions. Today, we'll be telling you about some of those cases. So welcome to us with your new unconventional tasks. We're in full readiness to meet those. So this much I wanted to tell you by way of kicking off our conference. Now I'd like to open the curtain a little and to to get you a glimpse what you're in for the next 3 hours. Fascinating world of digital Wonderland. My colleagues will be telling you in which matters we need to be bolder. In reality of today, one, we need to be more careful, and where we need to try and push frontiers of what's possible, what we like doing. We like experimenting, we like turning conventional arrangements upside down to be better ready for the future, which in part has come to us already. So let us begin. Thank you. Thank you, Masha, for these dynamics and the impressive figures from the world of Wonderland. Friends, I think you must have guessed as to why we gave this title to our conference. So let me get on immediately with the information about the structure. With just a little, Masha already has told us there'll be 3 chapters in the story of our adventures. Those are sets of maybe bits of advice that Alice could offer us. And we have transformed those bits of instruction into active points of action. Be bolder, be reasonable, push the boundaries. In each chapter, we'll be telling you about unique cases, expert opinions of the specialists of Group M, our clients, and key players of the market. Before we start off on this journey, let me make you happy with a little bit of exciting organizational information. First, our conference is being conducted in real time, online. So hopefully some slips of the tongue or technical issues will not remind us too often of this, but you have an opportunity to actually put questions to our speakers. It's very easy to do using the applications. If you're registered there, if not, it's very easy to get registered. So follow the QR code on the screen or follow the link from our moderators, download the application. Don't be afraid of registration. It's quite short in time. And just a little bit of personal information, and you'll get a unique opportunity to ask questions directly to our speakers. And actually, as you may have guessed, we'll be focusing on most relevant points. And what may be more relevant than the trends of remote work? Of course, nobody is likely to be surprised by scantily clad employees. People tend to be economical about clothes they wear, particularly in such hot weather. But we've also prepared unique proposition. It's digital wonder. It's a digital clothing, digital garments, which have set up with one of the startups, digital fashion. Now you can try on 6 smashing outfits, so you can express yourselves without any damage to the environment. So we'll wait for results of your experiments. So let's go and get some virtual outfits. So stay cool. Be braver, be bolder. This is a chapter about how to be brave and to accept the world in its unique diversity, how to speak openly about complex and controversial subjects and to attract attentions to the issues and to offer real solutions. This is the chapter about inclusivity and diversity, about the relevance of this agenda for the brands today. So I'm opening up the first quiz questionnaire in the slide. First, I want you to address the question, which of the issues mentioned here you believe to be most relevant for Russia? Now, while you're sharing your opinions, I invite onto the stage the first speakers, Anastasia Krylova, Director of the Department of Strategy and Media Thought, and Victoria Baranova, Head of the Unit of the Analysis of Target Audiences. They will help us to figure out the new ethical field, new ethical code. Good day, good morning, dear colleagues, those who are with us here at the site, and also those who are behind the screen with us. Well, we have a really cool subject, new ethics. There's still continuing the debates and disputes in the public space, but our job today will not be uh, entering into philosophical discussions. What do we want to talk about? How, under the conditions of new ethical field, we can communicate with our consumers, our brand, and to formulate the so-called code of digital ethics. The digital ethics covers a huge number of areas, starting from protection of data and all the way to the images of particular individuals in advertisements. There's a digital PPR, matters of transparency, conscious content, a respectful attitude towards audience. And all these, with all this, we need to find navigation, how to find a way. On the one hand, of course, one can be guided by a simple approach, saying that everything that's not forbidden by law is possible and permissible. On the other hand, what used to be only had the character of ethical norm, today may take on the character of the legal norm. For instance, today we cannot give clearly false information to our consumers in advertisements or to put down competitors, whilst only 30 or 40 years ago it was absolutely okay. So in order to tackle such legal matters, your companies probably have lawyers, probably many lawyers too. But do your companies have specialists in ethics? Why is it important? Because we all know of the dangers of breaking legal norms, but breaking ethical norms may also entail now certain risks for the reputation of the brand and eventually for the position of the brand on the market, both in terms of direct and indirect risks. Indeed, the times are gone by where maybe dubious joke about blondes in advertisements could actually attract attention and approval of the audience. Of course, attention is likely to be attracted even now by such jokes, but probably on the part of those who will be insulted by such advertisements. Indeed, just stop and think about more than half of women in Russia have negative feelings about advertisements featuring double entendres and double meanings of sexist character. This is just one example. Feminists, the national minorities, ethnic activists, they can be involved in shaping ethical agenda and using digital channels on the national scale too. And it's important to be aware that this agenda is liable to change all the time. What was not acceptable yesterday may be acceptable today, or just the other way around. So are we doomed to having communications flat, neutral, bland, being fearful of insulting somebody or offending somebody, and so eventually having advertisements that will cause no emotions in our target audience? And how can we figure out what's ethical, what's not ethical? Actually, one may be guided here by a good old principle. Act towards others as you would like others to act towards you. And now this principle is being increasingly legalized. For instance, UN came out with a draft according to which a man should not be featured in advertisements a man who doesn't know how to change diapers or a woman who doesn't know how to park. It's not ethical according to UN anymore. So none of us likes being treated in a stereotypical fashion, in a cliche fashion. We all want to be talked to about things that are really important to us, interesting to us, and relevant to us. So in human terms, it sounds very logical, actually. But the question is how to turn this human logic into communications for business in digital field. And here we can identify three principles how brands could carry out this ethical approach. First, corporate social responsibility, a number of additional measures that a brand could voluntarily adopt to be more useful to society. The most important thing, there's a call in society for such measures. 61% of Russians actually like are socially responsible brands. 26% of Russians are prepared to boycott brands for ethical and cultural reasons. These indicators in Russia are a bit lower compared to Western Europe or US, but they're increasing all the time. And there's the flip side here. Many people have apprehensions that quite often brands actually utilizing social activity only as a marketing move with no real values behind it. More than that, it may distract people from really existing problems. And there's even special terms for such phenomena. For instance, pinkwashing. Here's an example on the slide. Maybe utilizing feminist agenda or rainbow washing, when brands try to appear more loyal towards some community, to LGBT community, just to make more money from this. So what should be the right approach towards this matter of responsibility? First, one should be clear as far as the values inside the company. Only afterwards to broadcast these companies via advertisements and via communications. And the second principle is to talk about what's important to society now, to be relevant in time. Of course, all brands now are trying to be closer to consumer, to understand consumers better. This means to respond to all the events taking place in society. And these may be both positive such as Olympic Games, or negative, or such as pandemic. So here we get a lot of help from real-time marketing tools. In order to be always ready, we need to do a bit of homework. Example, to monitor actual events so the brand could make a statement. Second, to set up a task group and to be ready to rearrange a team, to be more agile, to be prepared to respond to incoming challenges. Also to find relevant partners and to scale up the communications. And the third principle is to follow inclusivity. Inclusivity in the broad sense of the word. The digital technologies today enable on the one hand to avoid content which may be potentially dangerous for the brand, to avoid contents about wars, violence, criminal crimes, and so on, which is a good thing, because that ensures brand safety, sense of brand safety. But it also brings some potential risks with this, because many really socially important issues may be passed over in silence or get short shrift. For example, quite often banned lists include maybe terms relating to races or nationality. Another example, according to American study, 73% of neutral or positive content on the subject of LGBT end up in the block lists. On the one hand, brands, particularly in the US, like to speak about inclusivity and to color the logotypes in the rainbow colors. On the other hand, as far as they're really afraid to post really exclusive content. This is something we'll talk about in more detail next presentation. So let's first sum up what brands needs to do to be closer to inclusivity. First thing, one is to remember that our consumers are very different kinds of people in terms of gender, age, national background, views, even the body builds. So one needs to combine target communications with the coverage. And as we were saying, it's important to avoid stereotypes. That's really important. It appears to be quite complex, quite a lot. It's possible, but as they say, there are two types of people who tell you that you can't change this world: people who are afraid of trying themselves, and people who are afraid that you will succeed in this. So thank you very much for your attention. Nastya, Vika, thank you for this immersion in the digital virtual ethics. I think this will be logical after this to become familiar with the food growth, with the growth concept. Dmitry Tarnovsky will be telling us why it's important for the brands to invest into good quality growth. Hello. I'm very happy to see you at the conference, even though you're behind the screen. In my presentation, I would like to continue this conversation and how it relates to the quality of business. Many studies show it's increasingly important for people, for the brand not just to make statements, but also to prove their statements with real action. And an increasing number of studies provide more data and greater choice for the relevant choices for the brands. But the stakes in this game are quite high. A mistake at the stage of implementation of good intentions may cost very dearly to a brand. Martin and Vika were telling us about this quite a lot already. However, let's look at this agenda from a different angle. This trend is not just about marketing, but economy as a whole, social responsibility of business. That's being able to create additional value through marketing. Before our eyes, it's becoming an underlying factor for the growth of business. Let's look at the financial industry. The industry, which is very cautious, very mistrustful, at the same time very, very powerful. Just like the media, financial industry has changed radically recently with the advent of new kinds of investment, input investing. The fastest growing investment fund is the investment completely based on ESG indices. Also, media industry, it's $700 billion a year. So where those budgets are invested, that's crucial. And where they're not invested, of course, those industries become stagnant where it's not invested. Let me talk in more detail about what we've been hearing. In 2020, many brands restyled their communications to trying to offer sympathy and empathy to people through their communications and statements. However, in terms of the media investment management, there's been no such adaptation, which led to a paradoxical situation. With words, brands express support, but in effect, they avoided appropriate financing. So apparently, financial standards were not adapted to the new situation. Any placement, I don't think there was any malice in this. I think it was just a matter of oversight. But one cannot call this situation inclusive. There was a negative reaction on the part of journalists, and that followed quite quickly. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and there was a serious blow in 2020, a serious blow to many, many brands. To put it more simply, it's not always easy to turn your good intentions into action, even though, as I said, investment is an important indicator of how a business feels about particular issues. So this about transforming the attitudes, intentional media. Now we are at a turning point. Media and marketing community cannot ignore their role in ensuring the significance and the presence of various social groups and communications. So they may fail to cover inclusive agenda, or they may set up authority about the new meaning of media communications if there are more thoughtful attitudes towards building those communications. Group M is aware that, of course, these media work for society as well as for business. In US, Black PMP was launched. The system of pitches of automated media that prioritize support for journalists that cover relevant agenda. And let me share how excellent business results can be achieved, as well as significant growth of brand metrics. This is a good case of combining investments for the purpose of the company and for social purposes. In Russia, and there have been substantial changes. In the case of more than half of girls in Russia, for instance, this application in my calendar in Vkontakte, that's a button that helps a girl who is caught unawares by her period, and she can press the button and get notification and get help. Now the SOS button helps to deal with difficult situations under 15 minutes. Thanks to such approach over the last 3 years, this brand broke its record over 3 years twice. Also, thanks to this button, lots of girls uh, met new friends. After helping each other, they became friends. Also, Haggis and girls put their money together to set up educational product for young parents, full-fledged uh, educational products. In the past, additional courses were only available offline, typically in big cities. As for the internet, was overwhelmed at the time with lots of mixed and sometimes harmful advice, which only caused worry and anxiety for parents. Now, the students of this course are not parents yet. We have no doubt that quite soon we'll see commercial returns on this. And partnership business, there's already 5 times greater level of conversion in the case of young parents attending such courses, such training courses. So based on our Russian experience and experience of Western colleagues, we've put together main vectors for transformation of business. What we need to think about as we're starting this journey, first, as we choose relevant social agenda, we need to think not just about good intentions, but also about available action, possible action. We need to remember that a statement not supported by action or actually followed by non-action would pose a great risk for business. Words not supported by action. Second, sites, product sites, media sites. We should think not just about the journey of consumer, but should think also about the position of people with regard to important agenda. Let me give you a simple example. Absence of ramp at the entrance to buildings today is it hinders not just disabled people, but it also bothers all people who don't like this, who don't think it's a good that it's possible to accept such state of affairs. Third point, it's important to be not just media effective in investment, but also being aware of what kind of position a brand supports by choosing a particular media strategy, and to what extent the audience of the brand will agree with this kind of investment. Is it possible there will be some negative reaction to this particular direction of investment? Also, trying to get quick, cheap wins, maybe unethical use of data. All this is risk increasing every day, undermining confidence of customers in the future. And finally, one should be aware of the trade-offs between commercial success and trying to ensure good quality growth of business. As you see from presentation, we have a degree of experience from new experience, so we're prepared together to follow this path from intentions, from statements to real action, actions that will have real long-term impact on business, on society. Thank you.
Митя, спасибо большое. Знаешь, твои выступления это всегда good и очень качественно. Ну что ж, друзья, а мы тем временем продолжаем.
Thank you very much. As always, it was a good comment. Now we want to continue to raise the degree of bravery and boldness. In recent times, various media, including diverse inclusion as agenda into the strategy of developing their brands. Now let's stop and think of what's behind such a agenda, how actually it helps to grow the brand, and how relevant is this to Russia. So Tatiana Kiryanova, CEO of Wavemaker, she will talk with Tek Kuryantseva, the founder of the jewelry brand August. Thank you very much, Ivan. Good evening, good day, dear colleagues. I'm really happy to follow up on the first set of our conference, which is referred to as the first chapter. Be brave. So to speak, not to be silent. My colleagues were telling you that it's really important to find approach to the digital audience. It's important to strike the right tone of conversation about the brands. And today, in Russia and in the West too, there's increasing number of brands that are aware of the matters of social value, such as diversity, equal rights, inclusivity. However, the agenda of diversity and inclusivity still remains quite controversial, very controversial. It tends to polarize society, split society, and cause a lot of arguments. What are we to do about this? Because we need to understand how to work with this. Because by taking successful steps, by promoting such agenda in communications, we can grow our business a lot. We can increase our sales and grow a loyal audience. But if you take the wrong stop, it may lead us to complete catastrophe. So in order to get a more detailed sense of this problem, we conducted a survey. We polled the audience from age from 17 to 75. Also, we talked with professionals, brand managers, and marketing specialists who do brand communications just about every day. So the results of our surveys turned out to be quite interesting, even though fairly controversial. 80% of the audience believed that brand today already need to follow the agenda of diversity and inclusivity. At the same time, as we look at the answers of the younger audience aged from 18 to 25, 100% of those people agree with those statements. Practically everybody is saying that that brands excite more trust. Those brands that follow this agenda in their communications, advertisements, who are not shy about speaking this in the media. However, we also see that depending on the subject, the percentage of confidence tends to change a lot. There are some subjects that people are accustomed to that are really in a safe zone, such as customary matters of ecology and the agenda of sustainable development for a brand. We see that the audience say that brands simply need to support people, disabled people. Also for Russian society, aging and aging discrimination is also a relevant agenda for us. However, there are a few subjects that are still outside the pale of safe zones, such as ethnic minority matters, and also supporting for the LGBT plus couples. We know a whole lot of examples on the market today where consumers are really boycotting sales. They employers and marketing specialists get overwhelmed with criticisms. And that's the biggest nightmare for marketologists. In order to figure out what are the barriers that marketologists face who try to work with this agenda, we actually had a conversation with marketing specialists. Here's what we got. We got 3 key barriers that are facing us. First, it's so-called toxic buzz. It's a great squall of negative input that brands get exposed who speak openly about this. Second is brands being accused of being not disingenuous, insincere, of pursuing hype and pursuing trendy topics in a disingenuous way. And the third barrier, not being confident about sales, losing fear of losing audience and fear of losing sales. That's the biggest fear. Practically all marketing specialists at the same time shared with us the sense that few people believe that it will have a good short-term and long-term impact on business. Marketing specialists are really trust more the well-proven methods of communications and channels. So in order to make a case that the agenda for exclusive diversity works for business, both in short-term as well as in long-term prospects, and also to increase loyal audience, and without causing a wave of hatred, we talked with Natalia Brantseva, the founder of Russian local brand of jewelry decorations, August. So before we get on with the interview with Natalia, I'd like to talk to you and share a couple of phrases about her business, her brand. Since 2013, the brand of August has been on the market, and in the face of 8 years, has become a major successful brand. Natalia set up stores not just in the city of Ekaterinburg, where she came from, also in Moscow, Petersburg. She sells her jewelry online, and we know based on in terms of the style, the quality of her jewelry, and we also know her because of her very open position towards very all important topics in Russia, ethic topics. We can give examples and show a few cases of collaborations with underlying values and meaning. So one such collaboration was collaboration with a clockmaker Raketa. So the wristwatches that were produced jointly with the brand August were dedicated to a person who changed the world. In her case, it was Sofia Kovalevskaya, it's a well-known Russian woman, mathematician and physicist, who was forced in her time to leave Russia to get an arranged marriage because in Russia she couldn't get a higher education and she couldn't pursue the studies she loved and that she devoted her life successfully to. The second collaboration devoted to Alpa Pin, a great woman, the only woman in history in the team of Carl Fabergé, who worked in Petersburg at the time. It's important that the items, the artifacts, Natalia, they convey meanings. For instance, this pendant or little hook with elements of women's ladies' underwear reminds one of the importance of early diagnosis of the breast cancer. And the out pendant was produced in honor of joint collaboration and partnership with Queer, the publication of Discovery. So August, both in words and in deeds, is proving that in modern world and Russian today, the brand cannot be aloof. We recorded an interview with Natalia just a few days ago. Let me tell you honestly, I really liked her. I hope you like it too. Let's check it. Natalia, good day. We're really happy that you agreed to take part in a conference today. So let's get to know each other. We can say that we're almost colleagues, you and I. We worked in Ekaterinburg in advertising agency Cosmos. You were a commercial director and creative director there. Maybe you could tell us, how did you take a decision to set up your own company and to start creating jewelry ornaments? It all began with my interest in jewelry, in jewelry workshop. It was not so much decision of setting up a business. It was decision to make my leisure time more diverse, more interesting. And by, the first items that I was able to produce, my friends appreciated, then friends of friends came to like it too. And so in the span of 8 years, it's grown to be a fairly big story. And it's my life passion, you might say. You were saying that those who buy August ornaments, those could be all kinds of people. It's really interesting for us as a marketologist to understand who actually is your audience today. How do you define your audience? Well, we don't define our audience in terms of gender or age or any kind of geography because for us it does not really matter. We believe this method of targeting is somewhat outdated. We try to describe our audience in terms of values, their values. These are people who you might call them pioneers or early adopters, or in terms of values, those are the people who, well, maybe they have respect for rights of people around, who make free choice, who have good education or good outlook, also have a good sense of humor and self-irony. Maybe politically active or not politically active, but basically they're aware of what's going on in the country and shape their opinion of this themselves. And why are we so confident that they're, as I described them? Because I have this theory that when you put out signals out there, certain signals, the audience picks up those audience and accept those audience. So if you conduct full intellectual communication and you are able to make a joke on yourself or express self-irony or maybe make references to art or achievements of women from the past, for example, then in this way you attract people who appreciate this, who value and understand this, and who can relate to this. Now, would you say your customers changed over the last few years? Would you say your customers have been growing together with yourselves? Do their values change? I think so, yes. I mean, the customers don't change in terms of some people come and others go. Since we are changing and I'm changing, it seems to me that any business is a projection of the founder. Just like a lantern inside a lampshade. So the shadow of a mosquito sitting on the shade is the shadow of the founder of the lantern. So also, I'm seeing that what's becoming important for my team and for myself, most likely is becoming important for our customers too. No, Natalia, tell us, the August brand, basically one could call it the pioneer in very honest, open communication, in open expression, your social position by brand with forward-looking views. At the same time, you are a big Russian local brand. I mean, you have no big headquarters like based in London or Zurich, which would send down a agenda about diversity, inclusivity, or social responsibility or brand ethics. If you tell us, how do you come to such open communication, to such positioning of yours? Well, I think that as we touch upon some political, eventually, it's all politics. So touching upon such subjects, it's only possible in marketing communication of brands, only if you're completely sincere and if it's only relevant to the team of business or to the personality of the founder. If it doesn't affect yourself, if you don't feel that this topic maybe makes your hands tremble or your heart beat faster, then it will make no sense for you to enter this territory and pretend that you're concerned about this, because that's just because it's a trend or fashion. It's all started when in the city of Petersburg, some oligarchs, with the support of local authorities, decided to build a huge church in probably the only public place in the center of the city, basically depriving the young mothers with place for strolls and young people with place for exercises, basically a place where most residents spend their younger days. So as one of my entrepreneurs in the Urals that I know, he says, do anything you want, just don't touch my city. Leave my city alone. So when you realize that, hey guys, that's not the way. You just can't do it this way, and we won't let it happen. So build it anywhere. Temple churches, fine, but make sure you first ask the residents which would be the better location. Don't take our park away from us. So this was a really cool precedent because the city, the residents heard about this, and the residents were able to defend their park and to preserve it. So we realized if we put our efforts together and make one joint effort, we can change things. So this first positive piece of experience, when in the city of Ekaterinburg, we organized ourselves, uh, got together at meetings for the protection of the garden, of the public garden, and all our subscribers supported us too. And so we realized that the audience that have joined the brand, they're just like us, and we can speak the same language with them. They share their values. What's important to them is the same. What's important to us. So it's become something natural for us and gave us energies to continue to speak on these important subjects with our audience. Thank you very much. Now tell me, today when we talk about brave and bold subjects that are maybe in our society not so customary to talk about, particularly on behalf of the company, on behalf of the brands. In marketing, there's some myths, where on the one hand, yes, brands so far are afraid of entering particular territory because they're afraid of appearing insincere, disingenuous, or being accused of hype and pursuing trendy subjects, or really afraid of losing part of the audience that might just move away. All this eventually will affect their business, the fear of losing segment of audience and buyers, customers. At the same time, you have quite a lot of posts with LGBT plus couples, and there's practically no negative responses, no hater posts. How do you actually work with those subjects? Well, first thing, it seems to me the jewelry brand, it's quite makes a lot of sense, for quite a good sense for a jewelry brand to touch upon such a subject, because jewelry, gifts of jewelry, are signs of love, signs of partnership. So for us, it's a natural subject. It's in the territory of our work. When it's done by maybe some other brands, but brands that maybe are not objects of communication. I mean, it's only a good idea if you're really sincere about it, not just for the sake of following a trend. So these beautiful people don't need anybody's support. So one shouldn't pretend that you're supporting them. They are doing fine. I think that we are able to function in this risk-free territory without being afraid of wrong kind of reaction from our subscribers or from our audience, because by and by, every time we send a signal to our audience about who we are, what are we like, and we can do it safely. So when you advertise your account in Instagram, anybody can subscribe it. But when you see maybe a post featuring Lego characters, so somebody might think they don't like it and write off. Thus, the homophobes fall away, orthodox activists fall away, but people who come and join us, to whom the same things are important as to us. So this system of putting out signals out there, what we are like, gradually we only end up with the audience that we need. But are there any negative reactions, or people just move away quietly? How do you deal with negative reactions? We don't have to deal with negative reactions. We don't get negative reactions. I mean, sometimes very individual cases, and it makes you wonder where those people came from. How did they come to be subscribers in the first place? So there's not much for us to deal with in this regard. Typically, such statements are received, don't receive support. Now, what about the recent cases in mass media? Well, my first reaction was when they removed the post about this family. It's about the Vkusville store who deleted the image of same-sex couple. First, I was really disappointed, and I thought I would never go to this store. But then we don't know what kind of pressure they came under, and most likely there's a sense, there's a lot of pressure. As a person who is involved in business, I know how difficult it is to build your business, to grow your business. So the fact that they tried to speak on this subject, that in itself deserves respect. And it's a Vkusville store. So I'm really sincerely feel bad that they caved in. So I really urge everyone not to protest against this store, because there's so many people who are trying to build this business, offering better health foods, and as an institution, they had a good impact on the dietary habits of people in Moscow. And so many thanks to this store, to this chain for their input. Of course, I feel bad about this family, and I feel bad about the Vkusville company and the entire community that they really affected so much. That was quite insulting. Now, another question. In the West, the diversity inclusion agenda is already part and parcel of the corporate codes and brand communications. It's an integral part of the growth of business in the West. In Russia, as you've observed quite rightly, Russia still is quite more traditional bound society, more conventional society, with the belief that sales tend to be driven by more traditional video and promo campaigns and price offerings, whilst not by brand communications on particular candid subjects. Now, do you see any connection between what you're doing, what you're saying in your communications in support of the sale of your ornaments, and the real sales? It's really interesting to find out insights from inside, as it were. How far does this kind of agenda drive sales in Russia today? Well, we didn't commission any kind of studies on this. So to separate sales with such communications versus without such communications, practically not possible to separate such sales. But I know for sure that our competitors, our customers, there's lots of LGBT people in customers. I also know for sure that employees of my company who are LGBT community people, they feel comfortable and they feel free across our team. They're totally open, and I'm really happy that it's like this. I know also that we have customers who choose us specifically because we are a safe zone. I know people who are appreciative of us for our political position that we express. So I can't really identify the sum total of such sales, but thanks to the fact that we are growing, I can make inference that it's the right kind of strategy. Huge thanks to you for your interview. I personally want to wish great success. My colleagues and I, we have a lot of respect for what you're doing. We are subscribers to your social media, so we are following the development of a business. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Thanks to our great speakers. I think you'll agree. It was really a brave, bold, inspiring beginning. Let me solemnly declare the results of the first round of voting on our slides. Let's see what kind of votes we got. The most relevant matter, according to the audience and viewers, is the prejudiced attitudes towards people of older and younger ages, 33%. Actually, interesting dynamics is indicated here. You're probably aware that at our previous conference, which was in November of 2020, we were asking a similar question. At that time, there was equally first positions in terms of significance was aging attitudes as well as prejudiced attitudes towards people who are disabled, physically, mentally disabled. Now let's consider. Of course, my colleagues analysts may be not happy about this, but let's see this as a statistical error, and you'll probably agree that these two subjects still remain very important for Russia and for a great opportunity for development of brands, which is not to say at all that one should not pay attention to other topics and subjects. So I hope, well, I'm convinced, I'm confident that as soon as tomorrow we'll together start to discuss and implement projects that will make our life at least a little bit better. So on this hopefully inspiring note, we are closing our first chapter, and I want you not to go away. 2 minutes later, we'll continue studying the world of digital Wonderland.
So, friends, let us continue our journey, and I would like to remind you that you can ask any questions to our speakers. They are looking forward to them, and you can ask questions not only about the conference, but you can ask them what they're putting on today. Finally, not pajamas. By the way, I was asking you to put on some online outfits, share it on social networks with a hashtag. Here are the first brave ones. Let's have a look at them. On the left ones, we can see a man whom we don't know wearing an outfit. He's on a chessboard, as far as we understand. I think it's a great suit to present a new creative tender, and I believe it will improve the probability of victory at least twofold. In the center, it's a suit of Alice, and nobody would even guess that this lady is actually wearing a bathing suit. And on the right, it's a queen dress. I believe this picture can be sent to the chat related to another inspiring meeting of graduates and stay home and watch Netflix. So these are the bold decisions. By the way, I wanted to point out that these outfits can be tried on. You can try them on wearing something, so you don't have to take a picture being naked, as we find out now. So please experiment, feel free, and without violating any laws and orders. So the hashtag is NextStep2021. So, next chapter is called Be Smart and Be Wise. Even in the most surrealistic situation, you must be able to assess the situation wisely and to make a balanced decision, working decision. And today we're going to tell you about one of the directions of this. Let me invite my colleagues, my clients, my partners to share their smart and wise solutions and their impressive cases. But before that, let us begin the second survey on the slides. I'm sure that you know how to use your thumbs here. This time, I will ask you to answer the following questions. What are the elements that create technological part of marketing? What technological part of marketing consists of? Meanwhile, while you're sharing your opinion, let us welcome Dmitry Anureyev and Vareya Kodukova, Media Group. Colleagues will tell us what is addressable everything and when it will come to our lives. Friends, hello everyone. Indeed, it has always been interesting to know what is addressable everything and for how long we will need to wait for it. And today our presentation is about what is addressable everything, what opportunities it opens, and what it means to us as a business. Together with you, we will try to understand, and most importantly, we will see what brands can gain from addressability. But as usually during conferences, let's begin from something else. Right, Dima? Exactly. And usually when we're saying we should begin with something interesting, but what is the most interesting thing here? The world has changed, and actually it's nothing new about these changes, but the most interesting thing is how it changed. The changes that we are observing, these are changes in the quantity of content, the more and more content, and the battle for attention of consumers, for our attention, is brighter and brighter. For a few years in a row, this race has been there, and we will keep on going and going. And what about consumers? There are still 24 hours per day, and our attention is still limited. So consumers are being more selective in their attention. Sometimes they block irrelevant content. And the third point that's important to mention here, and what about brands? What are brands doing about it? Brands are on this race for attention of consumers, and they begin to produce more and more content. And the scale of change that we're seeing today is just enormous, because it's not just tangible or significant, but like dozen times more or dozens times more significant content. And we can see it in Russia and in other countries. But unfortunately, as it often happens, not all the content is as efficient as we would like it to be. 1 in 4 ads, posts, or videos or influencer content positively impacts the brand, actually improves the brand growth. But why does it happen this way? The majority of users are stating that the content is not interesting to them, and as a result, there are losses in money. In the US, on the annual basis, businesses lose about $1 trillion because their content was irrelevant. And we, as a business of present and the agency of tomorrow, we are going to help brands to improve efficiency of their communication and improve relevance of their communication. How can we do that? We must fall in this small spot where consumers have the most valuable thing, their attention. We can hit the attention if, thanks to personalized communication, and do it in the most efficient way. But what are we thinking about addressability? It's digital. And all those tools that are available in digital, we've known them for a long time. It's Bromatic and DCO with targeting and segments and signals, so on and so forth. And paid search, including using those geolocation targeting keywords, so on and so forth. And of course, direct communication one-to-one when we speak to consumers one-on-one using personal data that what we've known for a long time. But actually, addressability is much beyond digital, and it's so far beyond digital fundamentally. When we're speaking about addressability, we mean a whole system of delivery of relevant content through those channels where it's technically possible to those consumers that are interested in this content, and it all can be done with the help of data, or thanks to those opportunities that data offer us. What about data? The time when we were saying that we didn't have enough data, we need to search for data, these times are behind. Now it's vice versa. We are oversaturated with data, too much data. Every second we're generating a lot of data. Media content and geolocation and data from smart gadgets that we all have with us now, and they track our health condition and our heartbeat, so on and so forth. And all these data account to 150 zettabytes. Just Google what zettabyte is. And our role as an agency is to help brands navigate in this ocean of data in order to improve their efficiency. In order to do that, we have an approach which consists of 3 parts, 3 stages of working with data and application of data. Stage 1, mining. Here we're looking into why do we need this data and where are the sources of data where we're going to get that from. Second, analysis. And during the analysis stage, we are taking a deeper look at data, and we're finding new insights and revelations of the audience and interaction with with the data and media cons. And the third point is activation. Activation where we apply in practice those insights and those revelations that the audience had in order to improve the efficiency of our communication from the standpoint of media and from the standpoint of our targeted audience. So, in terms of theory, I guess that's it. Now we're finally switching to practice how we're using this approach in the here and now for our clients. Okay, let's get started with the good old digital, with the example of case Coca-Cola and fooding. Our regular parameters, combination with different meals, we use these, and we also decided to take a comprehensive approach. What is the attitude of a person to food? The foodie, or he likes to experiment with food, or maybe food just satisfies the hunger for this person. Also, there are different solutions related to food during the week. During the weekday, we're trying to eat fast without thinking what exactly we eat. And on the weekends, we indulge ourselves with a team, with friends, or we invite someone and we create some great. We invite guests. So we created some activation points. It would be great to activate them automatically through DCO, and we did it with DCO in a video format. The results were really great. We built great image characteristics that it combines with food well, but we also improved sales very well, and it was the ultimate goal of every business. Okay, on digital, we can do we can do great campaigns, targeted campaigns with a great coverage. But the question is about offline in traditional media. Can we do targeted messages? Let's discuss this. Let's begin with the outdoor advertisement, and let us talk you through the case study of Schweppes. Bar at home, this is the way it's called. We made certain that celebrations are important for Schweppes. The New Year, Christmas, 8th of March, they cause upflow in sales. But people are searching for ways to relax and to relieve stress outside of these occasions, right? And the human insight here is that we are stressed during the week, and this week is the greatest on Tuesday and on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, Dima. How are you feeling? Great, amazing. No stress today. I'm so happy because of this conference. Based on data, we created 10 creative points in order to put them on the great facade in the building. It's a high footfall area, and it was easy to catch attention of consumers there. The results of that placement show that we reached the goal, means that we attracted attention, but moreover, 1/5 part of the respondent responded that our communication creates the sensation of a small holiday during the week, and it means that there is some space for growth. It's not limited by single occasions, and we can go wider, we can go beyond. I'm sure that many of you are looking forward to the TV part. Of course, we will discuss the TV part. How can we improve the message on TV, on this media? And let's have a look at the video right away that we were working with. You can call it whatever you want. If revelations are done in a crazy manner, then we'll go crazy because we're crazy. Fanta, for the sake of happiness. Yes, this is the fun video for young audience, and it tells us that it's great to go on TikTok. But we got faced with a difficulty that placement on TikTok is not allowed because of brand safety. But we are not used to giving up. So what we did was the following. We went to Ramira data single source panel, and we analyzed TV viewing by real TikTok users, and we found a lot of insights there. One insight was that their TV viewing fluctuates a lot depending on the weekday and the time. For instance, on Sunday, they don't watch TV, maybe because they're outdoors or they're watching TikToks, but they're not watching TV. Also, there were insights about channel split, and we found out that in certain channel lineups, REN TV is more affinitive to TikTokers rather than regular entertaining channels, and it surprised us. Given these insights, we recombined our launch on TV, and right now it's on air. We cannot share the results just yet, but we'll be happy to share the results during the Autumn Teeny Conference. We'll have a chance to analyze efficiency of this case together. Yes, and now it's the time to look into conclusions. We hope that we were able to convey to you that addressability is already here. We shouldn't be scared to use addressability. We must use the data in the right way in order to be in line, in order to be relevant for the expectations of our consumers, and to make sure that it is useful for the brands that we're working for. Thank you, and now we are happy to take your questions if there are any. Vera, Dima, thank you very much for this exciting conversation about content and about what we can do here and what And now we're moving on, and right now we'd like to invite on stage Lizaveta Sorokin, Performance Manager, Wavemaker, Vlad Ivanov, Strategy Director, Wavemaker, and Roman Statyugin, Analytical Product Director, Mail.ru Group. From here, we will realize how Shopper 360 approach helps identify new opportunities to grow brand. Colleagues, hello. Indeed, we prepared a lot of useful and exciting information. And in our presentation today, we're going to talk to you through a few important things. First, how to convert a user from online to offline, how to activate him in a sales point, and how Mailer.ru group helps us with this. And now let's have a look at what is shopper marketing. But it is a discipline in the foundation of which we have data analysis, and it's driven to improve consumer experience and to increase sales online and offline. Since we're speaking about consumer behavior, we'd like to share two trends with you and two observations. The first trend is more obvious. We all are aware of this, and it is that Russians prefer online channels of sales. According to NAFI, this number has increased by 32%, but another number, which is quite unexpected, and this is the Deloitte data, 66% of Russians still prefer offline stores, and they're not ready to search for alternative. And we see that it's confirmed through other categories. Up to 70% of decisions about purchase are made at the point of sales. Other observations. People are rapidly switching between online and offline. Every specific person within every specific category makes a decision instantaneously about a channel. And so, of course, strategically, we must be able to predict what this decision is going to be. And of course, and POS communication is not always switching into, is not always building into communication perfectly well. However, it's very efficient, and this is an opportunity to us. We have some job to do here, and this is why we created Shopper Logic tool. It contains three modules. First one is Shopper Mission, based on the data about category and about targeted audience, about media consumption. It gives 7 basic media strategies of presence, and it's also a tool for budgeting and goal setting. Then shopper strategies. Here we have a chance to choose out of 50 unique technical decisions, and optimizer, it uses predictive analytics, and based on the weather conditions and dynamic of the pandemic, and the demand, it makes a decision towards online or offline at the split of 4 or 6 weeks. How it works based on real life models, based on real cases, we'll have a look at it now. Let's see how shopper logic really helps our brands, and let's have a look at case of Johnson & Johnson with Listerine. Just a few words about the category itself. The category of this mouth rinsing products is quite young, and the client asked us to increase the volume of sales and also to improve penetration. In order to do that, we used our logic approach, within which we developed the second test design. First of all, we had to understand who is targeted audience for us, the profile of audience, and most affinitive time slots when they are making this purchase. The thing is that in terms of activation, in terms of the idea, at the points of sales and on the screen, there was a video being showed exactly when the audience was prevailing in the shop and when it was in line with the profile, with the targeted audience. However, we realized that it wouldn't be efficient if we finish it just here, and sometimes users are not making this decision right away next to the shelf. Sometimes they need additional time. This is why for those audiences who could see our video in the store, we also activated digital support. Thus, in-store campaign and video is working for the targeted audience, and digital is supporting, and as a result, it's driving frequency and is a unique stimulator for a purchase. Efficiency of this test, it was tracked with the help of sales lift. We measured volume of sales and penetration of the brand. In case if the product was not present on the shelf in a certain store, then this story was excluded from calculations in order not to distort the numbers. It makes sense to mention that this design test became possible thanks to our partnership with Mail.ru Group, because this was a test of a new format of Insta video. And this format means that there should be synergy of data between Mail.ru and X5 Retail Group. And thanks to the synergy of data between these two brands, we had a chance to see at consumer behavior, to analyze the most efficient time slots in order not to have views, not to waste them. We used it at Перекресток retail stores on a national scale, and digital, we also would support it with videos on Mail.ru resource. Let's have a look at the numbers. Actually, for the brand that is a leader in category, the numbers are really impressive and inspiring. We did not leave. We also supported. This support not also we use this support not only offline but also online, and we were working with the targeted indicators, and there was a growth of sales by 102 percentage points. This program is scalable. However, how now the behavior of our audience is changing right now quite significantly. Then the next stage for development is provided to predictive targeting. Now I would like to give the floor to Roman so that he can tell us what tools by Mail.ru Group are available to us here. In order for the approach of Schweppes logic works fine, we need to work with targeted audience, we need to analyze targeted audience, and we need to see intentions of our audience. And in order to do that, we also use our approaches in order to improve conversion, in order to improve the metrics of those businesses that are working here. During the purchase of any product, there are certain types of customer pathways that they are following. These customer pathways can be online or offline or mixed. Now, usually these pathways are mixed, both online and offline. We are analyzing the data and the ecosystem of Mail.ru Group and the data of our partners. They also have information about final offline conversion, and we use information from our clients, and we can do comprehensive analytics of customer journey. We can understand the segments that are in line with these paths, and we can see at which stage the user is right now in order to predict his next step and in order to predict the time left till final conversion that we're interested in. Three main streams that we're using here: customer insight, overall understanding of the audience, shopping journey analysis, and also predictive analytics, predictive models that help us predict category of the product, time of purchase, and next step of every client. Customer insight is a detailed, in-depth description of an audience that helps understand better this audience and to understand what communication is better for these targeted audience. Here, of course, it's not also social and demographic interests, but also lifestyle interests and some other signs that show whether the person is prone to this purchase or not. That's usually typical for the segment. Customer journey itself looks like this set of scenarios. It will be different for every category of the product. And when we're doing this analytics, we see what scenario this category of users belongs to, at which step they are right now, and what we want this user to do, and how we want to take him to another step of the journey, and how we should communicate with this person in order to bring this person closer to the result that we desire. And the final approach segments and segmentation based on predictive models. This is what we need because this is what helps us not just build segments of the audience that helps us communicate efficiently, but also we do it mathematically with a high degree of accuracy. So we hit the targeted action quite accurately. It's pre-calculated. It's predicted, and the accuracy is quite high. Further, we shape segments in such a way, like we create segments by the probability of purchase or by the channel of communication. As colleagues mentioned, there have been a few channels like that. They can be used not also in digital channel, but they can also be used in any channel where there's a touch point with the user. From at the website or mobile application, direct communication. It doesn't matter that much. Most importantly, we should understand where within customer journey is the user and what communication we need to make for this customer so that the final result is more efficient. So here is the comprehensive analytical approach that consists of different customer insights, customer journey, and predictive models. So this is what helps make this system more efficient. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Colleagues, thank you. Now, when we know how to improve the brand experience, Natalia Nekrasova, Data Manager Manager, and Svetlana Solopova, Head of Media Department Valenta, will share their case about how to build into, how create a maximum ROI based on Ingavirin.
Good day to all. So the human approach gives priority to persons. So we took the customer as the basis for our study. We got a response in two levels of payoff. Precisely human as a concept, we divide it into two parts: accuracy, the maximal accurate targeting of audience, and empathy, relevant communications. We didn't change the habits, but made suggestions and provided help. It's not a secret that a overwhelming majority of pitches in pharmacies are still done from the traditional shelf. So our purpose was not just to look at the customers, but at the online customers. The retail chain 36.6 helped us with the study with the offline audience and also with the capabilities for transforming such audience. So the duration of such loyalty program for 3 years gives us additional opportunities to analyze the history of purchases. 6 out of 10 checks come from the loyalty card, which suggests that the targeting on card targeting covers most of all the sales in the pharmacy chain. It also suggests that the customers of 36.6 are closely involved in this program. So precisely human program for Ingavirin. We identified a category of customers who buy such medicine, active users who used their cards actively. As we built communications, we decided not to try and change the existing habits of users, but simply made suggestions. When next time they go to a pharmacy, they shouldn't forget to buy something for influence or for head cold, because the campaign was taking place in the autumn. So it was a reminder for the customer to buy what they used to buy anyway. Just a reminder. So traditional question at this was this communication empathic? Did it elicit a response? that paid off in terms of the costs of communications. So to answer this question, let me remind you, we dealt here with offline audience, and so we were aiming at the offline pitches. So the way we did it, it's a fairly established method. By assessing influence of campaign, we count the pitches from the card, from loyalty card. There's a SKU that users get, and the time and place of the pitches. It's all recorded. So methodology suggests comparison of sales between the control test group, so test group versus control group. People who've seen the advertisements in the test group and people who have not seen it in the control group. So it looks quite simple. As we get to the results, 2 slides later, it took us about 8 months and about 8 iterations of calculations. Because the first results, we had questions. It seemed that the group who've seen advertisements was smaller than the group that had not seen it. So we decided to think about this, to figure out whether this approach was effective or whether we made some mistakes in calculations. So we realized both test and control groups belong to the same segment, but they do have different buying potentials. What it means that this buying potential includes, first of all, buyers' characteristics such as the cost of the medicines in this category, average check, the time from the previous pitches. However, the buyer's potential, particularly for pharmaceutical industry, also includes social demographic characteristics, because social demographic characteristics has indirect characterization of shoppers' behavior, because as we saw, the women were less distracted by advertisements or less influenced by advertisers, but actually ended up buying more. Also, there was a TV viewing was a key factor there too, because of course, digital campaign never happens in vacuum. So, as was the case with our campaign, it was taking place in parallel with TV support. So we realized that apparently consumers in one of the groups seem to watch TV more. So we evened out, leveled up groups, and decided to also look at the social democratic strategic partnership with the pharmacy chain 36.6 helped us to digitalize all the results in monetary terms and to gain insights that helps us understand the differences between those two groups that seem to belong to the same category of antiviral medicines. And what happens next? Most interesting, exciting part. We wanted to see whether our business was affected. The answer was clearly yes. We got plus 5% of pitches, which was a significant result. The advertising campaign influenced the repeated pitches into Virin, not just in terms of visits to offline, to online pharmacies, but also increasing the size of the check, which was an important factor. The increase was both in men and women. Men tended to be more responsive to advertisements, apparently because their preferences were not as clear as far as the antiviral medicines. But women brought us more purchases in absolute terms. Typical consumer aged 24 to 46. The age group 46 plus, increasing consumption of individ could be due to the more attention paid to the subject of COVID. For younger people, maybe it's the absence of clear-cut preferences. So the age group from 25 to 45, that was the group that brought the most purchases. For us as a business, was important that our media investment was effective and precise. So we gained better understanding in terms of frequencies, in terms of the returns on investments. We could see multiple results. So we could see that media investment and understanding of customers are really crucial. Sveta, Natasha, thank you for very impressive approach towards gaining empathy. Now, friends, we are in for the final presentation of the second chapter, from which we'll learn what are the types and sources of data where we can determine effectiveness of technology for a business. Our speakers, Natalia Baluta, Director of the Department of Knowledge and Management of Growth and Media Program, Andrei Alyoshin, Media Director of Digital Communications, and Natalia Mikhailova, Head of the Media and Digital Communications in the segment of Pet Care Mart. Hello, colleagues. Our next presentations is on media transformation, media transformation driven by data. It was a joint project with Mediacom, so we'll have a joint presentation. My name is Natalia Paluta. I represent the company Mediacom, together with Natalia Mikhailova and Andrei Alyoshin, heads of the media and digital communications of the units of Mars. Now we're going to share with you the details of our exciting journey. Well, what can I say? Our world is changing. You'll remember the kind of channels communication we used to have, television, press, radio, that was what we used to have. Nowadays, there's a fourth industrial revolution has taken place. PR, VR, big data, 3D printing, and of course advertisements are catching up on this. So digital marketing also has been gaining a greater number of tools. Digital marketing in itself has exploded with all kinds of innovations. And we've come to have partners. So to see for ourselves the effectiveness of those tools, digital tools, we need to test them, to measure results, to analyze those results, how to prove how all this can help business and the brand and the business. We, in the Mars, are asking ourselves the questions to invest into ready-made solutions, well-tested conservative tools, or to try out new ones, because there's only one budget, and we cannot afford any risks to take. The key questions asked of all marketologists prove that your advertising will work. It's not so easy to do, because to prove effectiveness of media is possible, but to actually separate effects of each tool for each creative campaign, that's quite challenging. Here we need to carry out a lot of different studies to build hypotheses and to be prepared for a difficult journey. But it's a really important journey to make, to know how to invest better and to achieve growth. Indeed, lots of questions to address. How to answer those questions? When we work on the digital, we have to deal with a situation that a customer's journey is not linear at all. And there are lots of opportunities. We work with different sources of data. We work with a huge number of targetings. At the same time, we faced the situation that there are no ready-made solutions on the market. We had to push ourselves forward as well as the market forward. Developing strategic partnerships, developing new methods and solutions which would help us with our media transformation. And this was not easy. Now, it seems to us, this difficulty actually helped us to achieve such a good result. In the end, we realize one test is not at all enough to prove effectiveness of a particular tool, because the result may be very a lot from brand to brand, from campaign to campaign. So it's really important to make a plan for such tests for a year to come. So there will be a lot of results of such tests, to make a list of all the necessary initiatives to do, to distribute investments, to choose methodology. It's a challenging process, but not to be afraid, not to be daunted. We need to move forward. We realize there will be mistakes. Mistakes are inevitable. Not all results we planned from in the beginning we are going to see in the end. That's not a problem. It's something we can see as opportunity too. It may actually open up paths to some more effective directions. Jointly with our partner, we've developed the systemic process of planning and implementation of such measurements. As part of every campaign, we choose one hypothesis or several hypotheses we want to test. And so we implement this based on statistical methods. That is to say, we involve analytics specialists who know how to take such measurements. Every measurement is fairly difficult and thorough process. There can be a whole lot of hypotheses, while we need to choose a particular one which will give us real knowledge. So we build this knowledge, we systemize it, and accumulate it in order to bring it back, to take it back to activation, take it back to our campaign, so as to make the next campaign even more effective, even more successful based on that. And only in this way, with systemic approach towards planning and implementation of campaigns in a systemic way, this is the only way we can get quality results for decision making. Media transformation calls for a systemic approach. So we started with KPI systems which we wanted to rely on to give us guidelines to see whether we are moving towards success or something requires further optimizations. When we work on our advertising campaigns, we have a whole lot of indicators. First, of course, we want to make sure that all media indicators would be developed together with our tested with our plans. We also do this in order to build the brand and to grow brands indicators. The final result we are aiming at, so not just the brand, but the entire portfolio of the company, not just long-term but short-term, to grow and develop. So we had three directions of KPIs: media, brand, and business. So in each of those directions of KPIs, we identify the main KPI we were aiming at, as well as KPI we could optimize in terms of our everyday work. Besides this, we also discovered so-called early signals. This is, first of all, media indicators, which we can rely on practically from day to day. So based on these, we can make judgments whether our campaign is moving towards success, towards the goals we set, or maybe we need some more optimization. Such systemic approach towards KPIs also called for systemic strategy in terms of tools and sources which we engage in measurements. We thought out well our choices. Now we use both fairly traditional sources that have been long well known and used on the market, econometrics or monitoring of the health of brands, but also for our own purposes, we created or developed some other new tools. For instance, we made a lot of efforts expended to adopt self-lift methodology to our tasks. So we take cues also from methodology that helped us to optimize our campaigns quickly. One would think that such a complex system of KPIs and measurement systems would make our everyday process too complex. That's not the case. We, as an agency, we are well equipped with tools. So the tools are integrated practically in every stage of our work on advertising campaign, from receiving brief to the reports after the advertising campaigns. All the KPIs, all the data, all the results and measurements are integrated seamlessly into these tools. Thus, this does not create any difficulties. At the same time, we're confident that every stage of work, strategy, tactical planning, implementation of advertising campaigns, we're really acting based on data. Now, our colleagues will share with us with specific hypotheses we were testing out and what the conclusions we came to in particular advertising campaigns. What kind of questions we can ask ourselves in assessing various kinds of activity. For instance, work on social advertising, modern trend. There was a high mission, not quite clear how to measure this mission. There's a beautiful KPI such as lifetime value. It's a long-term KPI, but on the market, very few people know how to take those measurements properly. Practically no such methodology. So our recommendations to look at the brand indicators such as brand relevance, brand image in measuring the effects as in social advertisements, to do studies such as tracking for 2 years to see the dynamics of the effect, but also for some categories of brand, also to look at the effect of sales, which may be significant too. Also, very relevant question: what is the impact of a base targeting date on the effectiveness of a campaign? There's a huge number of data. There's a sense that everybody else is using it, but not us. There are different sources of data: first, second, third-party data. The question: what do we need to choose from these? Very short answer: we need to. The path of working with data is very long. We need to collect it, to activate it, to have different segments. First, on a small scale, we need to test the effectiveness of this data and then to implement it for all the brands and for all the categories. Another hypothesis, interesting hypothesis, is targeting in the moment of time. What is the moment of time? The moment is a particular situation, either of consumption or of a purchase. So in every specific case, we take a decision what we want to target, either consumption or purchase. Because based on that, we choose the particular kind of tools what kind of measurements we'll be taking, and generally speaking, the moments of time on a larger scale. It's not just media objectives. The entire organization should adapt itself in terms of vertical to implement moments, those moments. For instance, route to market or channels of sales. When working with such moments of time, it's important to know the capacity, how many consumers you can cover in this moment, and the most important thing, who among the partners can provide you with a good quality access to real consumers in such moments, and what are the tools to transmit or broadcast your branded message in this moment you can actually utilize. Naturally, the work with moments is the work with data. So such targeting that's much more expensive compared to wide coverage placement, which is why it's very important. Since we pay so dearly for this, so high costs, it's important to understand whether there's been a change in behavior of consumers. Have they come to buy and consume more of our products? And most important thing, were we relevant in our communications in this moment? So accordingly, we need to balance the price, the cost versus outcome. So in order to choose right moments, not to narrow down our targeting too much. As life shows, if we need to do something, do it yourself, or at least brand implementation. A lot of calls and expectations of advertisers don't get implemented because the market is fragmented, retail market is fragmented too. So the analytical work is often promised from end to end, but it's not always end to end. So always on the lookout for disruptive methods to be able to measure effectiveness of our communications with such serious targeting. In the past, we used to take several measurements a year. Now, in our pipeline, we have more than 100 such measurements. So we're moving towards creating, at least I'm hoping, we're moving in the right direction. We're moving towards creation of ecosystem, which could take proper measurements of our activation for us, of our activations. Interesting thing is that should there be partners or agencies or systems that could offer comprehensive solutions to measure effectiveness, not just inventory for placement of advertising messages, even if it's innovative, which is interesting too. So then such agencies and partners could gain very important competitive advantages for advertisers. What do we get thanks to such transformation, thanks to such large-scale approach to testing? We realize the input of different campaigns to targeting tools, so we can be more effective in distributing our resources. We know what's the right media mix we need to choose, how to properly balance between traditional, already standard tools, and what kind of proxy tools we can also include in the future. We follow the brands of the market, we monitor, we have investment for this. Thanks to such focusing, we get awards. As an example, it was AFI Award. Most interesting thing, what we put into place, a large-scale approach to all our campaigns that we conduct throughout the year. We optimize them quite quickly and apply all the knowledge and practice. Indeed, media transformation Mars has wonderful results. We are hoping that our example has inspired other companies too to follow the path of transformation of media and marketing. And we, as an agency, Media.com, are prepared to support each of our clients in this exciting journey. And we have solutions that work for such companies as Mars, but as far as smaller, maybe businesses or brands, we could also choose select proper tools for you too. For every type of measurements, we have options light or optimum, which enable us to customize it to meet the tasks of brands. We collected a big base of benchmarks we can use. We have ready-made roadmap of development. So whatever brand you may have, whatever tasks you may have before your business, we are confident we will be able to develop the kind of solution that will help you achieve success, your success. This much for today. Our case is completed. Goodbye, and we're wishing you good continuation of the conference. Thank you very much. It was very pleasant for us to share our experience with you. Should there be any questions or wish to communicate, feel free to get in touch with us. Thanks to all. I wish all success, more tests, more hypotheses and results. Goodbye.
Грандиозный
An amazing part two, and it was a great continuation after a bold start. Now let us have a look at the result of a second voting. Let's see what were the votes. And according to our audience, technological part of marketing consists of analysis of results of campaigns. So everybody wants to see whether we managed to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Then systematic approach to our digital assets. And then after that, automation of ad campaign management. Some businesses have it available and already receiving benefits from these technologies, and all the others welcome. If you want it, we'll be happy to help you. And I would like to say thank you for sharing your opinion with us. And now we're switching to the third part, the third chapter of our digital Wonderland. Friends, I believe that we know now the laws of digital Wonderland. So let me remind you, just in case, that you can leave any questions for our speakers. They are ready to give instantaneous answers and very open answers. Please share your experiences about the conference on the website NextM 2021 on social networks, and also try on digital outfits and share your looks with hashtag NextM 2021. Meanwhile, we are moving on. So the third and final chapter, which means that we should expand our borders, and here we're going to discuss solutions that are expanding and improving the borders of efficiency. Before I invite the first speaker, I will announce one more question in one more survey. This time, are you ready to allow your mobile apps to track your activity? If you allow them, then why? While you are sharing your open and honest opinion, the third chapter is opened by Alexander Kondrashtina, CEO, Mediacom, and Oleg Timbotov, Managing Director, Content Plus. Colleagues are going to tell us about the ocean of technologies, how not to drown, first official results of the survey of Yandex Navigator, and also they will make examples of cases of our examples that have already been made. The floor is yours. Colleagues, good afternoon. According to tradition, we will speak about technologies today, and also about the level of technological maturity of marketing and the role of agencies in this ocean of technological solutions. I'm sure that you know that the number of these technological solutions right now is in abundance. On the slide, you can see the map of Europe in in these technologies. The growth rates of these solutions are enormous. In 2021, in Europe, there are as many businesses as there were globally in 2016. Just think about it. It's really very cool. And obviously, the role of a media agency has changed in this context. And the question is, what is this role of media agency? According to Gartner study, only 18% of brands have mastered the benefit of for their business thanks to technologies and to achieve outstanding results. And you might have noticed that technologies market is developing much faster than different different standalone businesses, but they are not a silver bullet. In order to understand which solutions are going to be efficient for specific business goals, you need to have a very great knowledge of their introduction and their results. We see a great picture of the market. We see results of a lot of introductions in different categories, and we see how to assess efficiency of every technology for businesses, how to avoid the technology of sunk cost. So we are taking the role of consultant and integrator of the most efficient solutions for business goals of our clients. When you're working with this number of diverse strategies, then at some point there's a turning point. And in order to go beyond the processes that you're used to, you need to step aside, you need to calm down, and then you need to prioritize all the knowledge that you have to systemize them somehow. And this is why we're happy that we have an opportunity within the partnership with EFI to develop EFI Tech. We have developed a lot of different solutions, but I would like to dwell upon the study of the level of technological maturity. Tech Navigator, it was announced in early this year. 129 businesses have taken part in the survey, and the survey is present in interactive format on the website, and you can see it on the slide. You can sign in and see your results compared to benchmark in category, benchmark in the market, and you will also receive personal recommendations. What helps understand this? What this study helps understand? First, where your business should focus, which technology you need. And we also believe that this is a combination of 5 elements. First is strategy, then in-house digital resources, distribution of marketing budgets, managing advertising campaigns, and also performance analysis. You can see slides on all businesses that have gone through studies. No dramatic numbers, but you can see that there's a great room for improvement. And later we will dwell upon every area in more detail, and I would like to invite my colleague to talk us through this story. Colleague Oleg is invited on stage, and we will begin with the first element with strategy, as Sasha said. And here we're saying that organizations are setting goals when they're working with technologies and how they're doing this. Are there any commercial KPIs, or is the technology just a part of infrastructure, and whether roles and responsibilities are distributed the right way, and whether it helps the technology and or it slows down the business. This study helped us answer the question what these processes look like in the businesses right now. And we see that actually only 1/3 part of respondents said that they have a fine-tuned system of partnerships and processes to introduce technologies and innovations. It's quite a lot. It's a great basis for further development, but still we can see that there is room for improvement for others. Let's move on from strategy to, of course, to own digital assets. The resources that we usually name digital ecosystems, and not only availability of the systems such as mobile app and microservices for clients and different elements of content and delivery systems, but also we're speaking here about how these assets are planned, how they are launched, whether this launch is really done in a nice manner, and whether these assets are actually in an eye form a great ecosystem. Another insight that we gained, it relates to development of these digital platforms. Only 30%, 37% of these assets are scaled and launched to the market after the pilot MVP stage. To us, it means that we must help introduce processes better. We must make this launch more smooth and integrate these assets within ecosystem. This is the overall concept. Now let's discuss what we're actually doing together with our partners. And today we're happy to announce this product that we developed together with our partners from Mail.ru group. It's called Promo Accelerator. It was created to support promo campaigns within an ecosystem of VKontakte, and it will be available to Group M clients till October this year. Let's discuss what it is, what it consists of in detail. The product is actually a package solution which allows to activate promotions. This is why it has creativity development, shoppers and analysis, media support, and of course, efficiency assessment, especially in the context of sales. Business outcome and outcome analysis. So this is a product to launch promos very fast within VKontakte. If we describe its opportunities and its advantages, then advantages have been designed at the initial stage of the development because we realized why we were creating it. The first one, it's a launch of a promotion in a short time. We are using the functions and features that are already available, and it doesn't take much time. Second, using all media opportunities of VKontakte, and there are a lot of them. They're in abundance. It's important to integrate them all in order to reach the goal of sales. The third advantage is mechanic in the interface of the registrator. And the fourth point, efficiency again. It's efficiency analysis and searching for optimal budget. The new product is going to be working on the technological stack that's called Schweppes. It's within VKontakte, it exists there, and it's and in the line between technologies, and it's based on the experience that Group M has accumulated during different promo campaigns for different market segments. And it matters because there's promo available in digital household, in FMCG, and in other segments. Next element, and here let's speak about money, distribution of marketing budget. And marketing mix right now is not only it includes not only advertising tools, but also other technologies that need to be funded in the right way, and we need to spend adequate investments on them. On top of technologies, it's also research and also development. Question: are these decisions made based on data? Are they data-driven, or are these decisions based on expert opinions? Historically, it happens so that experts are the main drivers making this decision related to investments. However, we believe that technologies will help to make this decision better and faster. But only 33% of businesses right now are using technologies to budget their marketing expenses. But we also see here a lot of opportunities because our technologies can help us here. And on Group M, on WebMaker, we created a special team, a dedicated team, Innovation Lab. It provides services that allows to make a comprehensive analysis of opportunities of this business and to select a technology specifically for this business. Let's make an example now. Thanks to this solution, we managed to find a technology based on artificial intelligence in social networks. At the stage of procurement, it finds best consumer scenarios. It makes the right stakes and improves efficiency of businesses tremendously, exponentially. And it was executed for Huawei, for one of our clients. Let's move on. The fourth element of technology, it's closer to us in terms of its core, it's management of advertising campaigns. Whether the process of advertising campaigns and management process is technological in terms of choosing the audience and the technological mix and implementation, but we looked into those media that are traditional, and by default, they are not that digitalized as digital channels. For instance, TV. According to a survey, only 20% of companies use innovative TV targeting, and they consider them to be quite difficult and hard to implement. However, we as a group and as an agency believe that in TV there's a huge space for technologies. So within Mindshare agency, we developed a product range that includes a number of solutions for customer segments, different targeting, also to track different patterns of TV watching in relevant moment in time. Now we're approaching element number 5. I believe it's going to be performance analysis. Yes, exactly. It's performance analysis. So this is the final element. What it is, it's whether innovative modern methods, analysis methods are used in analysis, in marketing performance, whether it's technological and automated in terms of test and learn process. If we look at penetration methods in terms of analytics and efficiency, then you can see the results. The penetration is not large. Very few businesses are doing it systematically and consciously because the market is complicated. There are no infrastructural solutions on measuring media efficiency, for instance, like Nielsen in the US, that can give you both media and tools and sales analysis, and they might be all interrelated. So this is the area where we should go. This is where we should develop. At Mediacom, we have a special approach for our systems that is called Total Impact Measurement System. It has a few levels of measurement, and it allows brands of different scale to improve efficiency of their placements thanks to analytics. For instance, for Royal Canin, with the help of this approach, we managed to increase cost effectiveness by 26% in 1 year. This is an outstanding result. We have spoken about the degree technology in marketing, and now there is a logic question. What is the agency of the future in this sense? It's a very reasonable question. What is the agency of the future? In order to give the answer, let us give the answer to the question, what is the media agency role right now? In the future, and right now, these are quite closely related agencies because right now agencies are turning into technologies integrators that help solve different problems and and handle different tasks from related to media and logistics and commerce. And it leads us to a reasonable role of agency of the future. It will turn into a one-stop shop for clients. We complete the puzzle consisting of different elements. So there are a lot of technologies, there's a lot of content there, a lot of product delivery channels, and we can see it with we can see this big picture and we know how to integrate it all into one solution, into one-stop shop. And being an agency in the group, we know where we should develop our own expertise. In the beginning of the presentation, my colleague mentioned that it's not e-commerce, it's also creative services and a new approach to partnership with technology companies. And in our understanding, we have presented and announced a new product, Promo Accelerator. It's work with data and it's closely related, very closely related to clients, because introduction of new technologies is directly linked with processes within the business. And we're going through these processes together with our client businesses, and choosing the technological solution is only the first step. And after that, there's a long journey that we're taking together with our clients and with our partners. And this is what wraps our presentation. Thank you, colleagues, very much. All the best. Sasha, colleague Oleg, thank you very much for additional details about what it means to be agency of the future. And we continue to broaden the horizons. So next, how to turn around the funnel of sales, how to achieve results that are exceeding any expectations. Actually, right now we're going to have a great technological case of Volvo brand, which is going to be presented by Svetlana Matyasheva, Marketing Communications Manager at Volvo, Anton Kasivtsov, Business Director, Mindshare, and Krustina Kupolevatskaya, Sales Group Head, Yandex.
I think it won't be news for me to say that transforming business starts with transforming human potential, people. So today we'll talk about our work in partnership with Yandex, the application of the simple truth in practice. Still, some people think that Volvo is not a modern brand, not a youthful brand. It's probably because sometimes people are not familiar with the current line of models, and they're still driven by stereotypes. In order to modernize their view of the brand, they needed to be made familiar with the brand, technology, and solutions. So we chose compact crossover model, which was a novel product at that moment. So through this solution, trendy, bright-colored image to present the company in a new way. So our job was quite difficult. We operate in a difficult, challenging segment, CVC. This segment had been quite stable for many years with established leaders. So while implementing this project, we set ourselves three objectives. The main objective was the growth of knowledge, so that many people would learn more about Volvo company. Second, increasing involvement to change the intentions of pitches of customers towards Volvo. And third, commercial task was increasing sales. Let's talk about insights, Anton. Since our target audience of our brand and the project as a whole were young, active city residents with high level of income, following the rules, their own rules, and the time for them is a very valuable resource. So let's recall how the attitude towards classical design. So you need to make time, go to the showroom, fill out lots of paperwork and talk with employees. And then you have limited time for test drive, limited route for test drive. So it's not particularly comfortable experience. So it's not to be not surprising that majority of brands to consider maybe 6, but the number of test drives only 2. So we realized that the test drive is not particularly convenient tool. Solution was to present a new model of to the audience here and now without any limitations. Thus, we transformed the conventional format of test drive into something more convenient and accessible. So we decided to put together two main services for motorists, Yandex Navigator and Yandex Drive. Yandex Navigator enabled us to offer to colleagues from Volvo the widest media coverage. Yandex Test Drive enabled us to give the opportunity of driving Volvo right away. So the first contact to the audience was in Yandex Navigator with us. So here we engaged all our media tools that at our disposal in order to have an en masse description of statement to the audience about our rolling out new model. So in all our tools we had special interactive buttons. So when you press the button, you can get into Yandex Drive immediately, to get behind the steering wheel and to enjoy the driving a new model. So accordingly, what happened next? If a user got behind the steering wheel of Volvo X40 and had any questions, and they could activate Alice. Alice was available both in Navigator and Yandex. So Alice could tell the user about all the advantages of this particular model, answer the questions, to talk about the interior, exterior features, and also to sign up for a dealership center. That's how a new format emerged of test drive, the kind of format that enables the audience and the users to get behind the steering wheel of new XC40 Volvo model without not being bound by time limitations and in any kind of terrain. And it's not all. In all our communications, every time we put together new segments of audience with whom we worked every month. In this way, we put together a segment of an audience and then targeted our adverts on them in order to offer make special offers, discounts for new models. So users could press the button and automatically this record was kept. New special identifying number was assigned. So one was entitled to discount at the dealership center. And that was the only way to get this discount. So we looked at the efficiency of this project. Here I would like to talk a little that thanks to our studies, we realized more than 70% of users who own personal cars, they also prefer to use car sharing, and 20% of these respondents told us that using car sharing does have an impact on their further decisions on buying or not buying a car. And here are the results we came to. The final confirmation that new format of test drive was successful was evidenced by the results that exceeded our boldest expectations. First of all, more than 34,000 test drives trust us. If we were to follow classical paths of test drives based on dealership centers, we would never be able to get such number of test drives. Also, we increased the market share. Let us remind you, it was a challenging segment. Third point, more than 50,000 contacts were added to the database of Volvo. Those are people who accepted the communication of the company. And for us, it was a potential audience and potential sales. And this case actually was received an award at International Festival. Colleagues, thank you very, very much. That was very cool. Actually, when you see such impressive cases, it's impossible not to be jealous and envious. If you have any questions for the speakers, for example, as far as technical aspects or details, or any kind of questions, don't forget that you can easily put them through slides or across the platform where you're watching the broadcasting. Speakers are quite active in addressing the questions. So I'm hoping the next speaker will be able to amuse, impress. In the same way or more, now we're going to talk about gaming. Which way gaming industry is heading for, and what does it mean as far as communication? What is the secret? What is the secret? Possibly only one of successful cases that became part of the world of gaming. Roman Rizanov will tell us about this, head of the creative group of gaming projects.
Всем привет! Сегодня я расскажу вам про то, как стирается грань между физической и игровой реальностью в гейминге.
Today I'm going to talk about the borderline which is being erased between real world and gaming, and how does it affect reputation of the gaming brands. I'm 32 years old. I've been in the advertising for about 13 years, and for about 36 years I've been playing computer games, so I know what I'm talking about. Gamers are becoming increasingly attractive audience. Why is that? First, it's a huge layer of audience not to be reached by standard methods. It's a great measure of involvement. So there's a lot of empathy. If you get gamers involved, results are very impressive. A lot of empathy for your brand, also a lot of openness to other channels. So gaming may make your brand a cult brand, and there may be a lot of additional advertising for your brand. Gaming industry has made a great leap. 15% growth for last year. By 2025, the growth forecasted about $100 billion globally. Russia will account for about $10 billion. So industry has been growing by leaps and bounds. But in 2020, it exceeded the musical industry and film industry. And by 2025, every second person on the planet will be a gamer. Games already are posing a serious threat to video streaming sites and platforms. There's almost twice as many players as the users, which is Netflix is changing its strategy in their work with gaming audience, planning about 10 filmings of gaming storylines. In 1962, students of MIT and SpaceWorks, it's essentially the first bunch of hackers that were able to crack a computer and actually call themselves hackers. And to the most expected game of 2020, Cyberpunk. So the gaming people always try to erase the line between real world and gaming. So the graphics made a lot of progress, high resolution, more clear-cut delineation of details, landscape, interaction with machines, artificial intelligence, all this to create a full feeling, full sensation of totally realistic experience. Working with this industry every day, seeing new updates, new models, very high-level competition, new records are being set, and new gaming genres are being emerging. So you can't really expect available conventional methods to stay effective. They're already morally obsolete, which is why it's important for us to know what are the prospects for the near future, in order to understand how to build effective communication with this audience of the future. First, let's imagine how this gaming industry is going to develop. Naturally, the gaming world will be increasingly complex and detailed and rich, while the users will be spending even more time there in those worlds, in their adventures, and in their explorations. Already, the audience of Minecraft is already 7 times as great as the surface of the planet. Now, the gaming world will not be just growing, but will be penetrating each other. It's another important aspect. The world methods of the universe. Gaming universe is a virtual space where the user within the space can be anybody and do whatever. So the common feature of this university is the swallowing the adjacent contents inwards and giving the experience of to the players within this universe. For instance, games, sports, films, gaming characters may exist within the same game. There are such examples that are growing very quickly. You're probably aware of those, such as Fortnite, Animal Crossing, GTA 6, which just come out in 2024-25, and potentially it will be the new game changer in the gaming industry in the category of multiplayer. I will not be surprised if in the near future we'll be able to go into the Fortnite game and to exit it from Minecraft. For brands, it will mean that people will not be going aware. They'll be watching films within the game, and they'll be able to do political actions or to meet up with friends within the game, maybe at a musical festival. All this in the interactive gaming fashion. It's logical to imagine that the method of interaction will change too with gaming worlds and spaces. In the very near future, it is claimed we'll be able to reject analogous controls in favor of keypads and special costumes that will help us stimulate physical sensation experience with far-reaching consequences. We'll be heroes of the characters, Steam Builder, so we'll feel the experience, full experience of films already now. So we can mix reality now. We can hold the musical instruments to create, as I mentioned, independent space in support of free speech, or even to to transfer gaming interaction into the real world using Shift and to order something from KFC without leaving the game. And the recent campaign that won the award was Burger King with a challenge. The point of the case, and it was cool, Burger King actually sponsored a real niche of the soccer team of the fourth division of Britain. So the gamers playing for the team with the special logo on the T-shirts could also promote Burger King and could buy players such as Mbappé, Ronaldo, Messi, and so on. In this way, those virtual characters that exist in the real world too, they also became virtual ambassadors of the brands in the real world without any investment having to be made by Burger King. Very cool precedent. Gaming is always about immersion, about staying in an interactive stream of events in the game. Mixing and blurring reality. So the motivation of the user is to have fun, escapism, virtual space, to be what they want to be, wherever they want to be at. Planning communication with the game, it's important to bear in mind that we actually invade into the natural habitation of existence where they want to have fun. First of all, we don't want to bother them or irritate with banners. It's important. One should not try to break the experience of perception. It's like shouting from the other room, just shut down your computer, let's do something else. Let's now think about how to properly build communication with the gaming audience. The main piece of advice, conceptual and key piece of advice, to become part of their gaming reality, complemented. Then we're going to offer a few key recommendations for brands in gaming, including those based on our case we've implemented. Try to break the game, find something that might impress and amuse the players. The example in Stony Man, to have a game within another game, that's a really cool idea. The brand had a task to enter into the gaming territory, to involve the audience, and the budget was quite small actually. We created a game within a stream, so based on a balance, the communication of the brand, but also starting point for the actual game. So we decided to utilize the high degree of engagement of gamers to offer them a game they could play in parallel with the stream. So it's a fairly simple game with strategic design. You could see it on this slide. It's sort of like Space Invaders, suggesting that one could control this balance, providing experience, boosters, rockets, and the users were competing against each other. So the result was that our game became most popular. It became top 2 as far as popularity among all digital events for gamers in terms of broadcasting. So the most simple, I suppose, what one could suggest to a brand is interactive experience with players. As a solution, we decided to have show matches with the most popular streamer in Russia on the Doctor Strike discipline. Tried not to interfere with the games, tried not to interfere with their perception. We came up with a branded style of tournament so the players could play as if through via interface. So the result was online products to the tune of 150,000 rubles, upwards of 150,000 rubles. So also we should remember the sensitivity of players to falseness. They're very toxic sensitive. They don't like to be cheated and deceived. So for cyber sports, we had this task to have a product to recharge one emotionally as well as functionally. We decided not to invent anything. We just told directly gamers, we can't win this game for you. We can't pull out the card for you, but we can help you have fun. So This it's a fruitless communication of platform. So based on the results of our study of these communications, it helped increase the buying intent by 36% and 35% increase in the effectiveness and index. Also, we can bring the game into the real world. Excellent case of mixing game and reality. We had a key task to create agitation, excitement, the buzz on the market, at the shelf. Our communication platform is the most colorful moments in the life of gamers. We made a collection. The products of Icon were as if integrated into the game and reflected in real life. And every separate product, by analogy with gaming mechanics, was pumped your set skills just like in the games, like shower gel. Shaving gel could, for instance, pump your strength and skills of strength. In real life, we were encouraging the buyers to activate the ultra skills. So it was based on the Czech promotion at Peterочка, our exclusive partner. So results were quite forthcoming. We got a big increase in sales with artifacts dedicated to from gaming reality. Not just logo on the product, but the whole set of stories by analogy with the game. So the story really kicked in quite nicely. And so that increased the value of the product many times over, after which for your game to play effectively in the historical territory of gamers, to become part of the lives of gamers, of whom there are about 65 million in Russia, become, first of all, organic part of their gaming reality, interacting with brand both in gaming reality as well as in ordinary reality. The gaming should be made part of the system of brand, adapt yourselves and become part of this reality. If you have this goal, send your briefs, you know how to make your brand part of the world of gamers. Thank you. Roma, thank you. It was a good game, well played. As you might have sensed, Roma knows what it's all about. Now, we're in for an independent position about the future of agencies, of actual performance technologies. We're happy to introduce expert on digital revolution, one of the 100 most influential men in the year 2015, according to GQ version, entrepreneur, executive director of innovative salon Silicon Valley, and the author of numerous technological bestsellers, Andrew King.
Hello, everybody, at the Digital Wonderland event in Moscow. I apologize for not being with you in person, but given our magical new technology, our digital technology, I can be there at least virtually. I love the theme of your event this year, Digital Wonderland. It, of course, refers to the great novel by Lewis Carroll, the English fantasist, the novel from 1865, Alice in Wonderland, a book which has stayed in the public imagination for more than 150 years. And the reason is because it's both so familiar and unfamiliar. As a fantasy, it's attracted generation after generation, not just of children, but of adults who are transfixed and seduced and bemused and perhaps even a little scared by the world that Carroll was drawing for us, the world that Carroll invented in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. It's a book which is as relevant today as it was back then. But let me talk for a moment about Lewis Carroll, who, of course, wasn't really called Lewis Carroll. His name was Charles Dodgson. He was an Oxford professor, and he went up a river in Oxford in 1863 with 3 young girls, telling them fantasies, stories of imaginary worlds, re-architecting conventional reality in mid-19th century England. And he wrote those children's stories, which were also adult stories, down, and he called it Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Some people have seen Dodgson or Carroll as a reactionary, a nostalgist, a fantasist, a romantic for another world, a world perhaps that existed before the 1860s. Others see him as a progressive. He was, for the 1860s, a highly technologically sophisticated individual. He was one of the pioneers of the new art of photography, an art of photography of today, of course, which has become ubiquitous through platforms like Instagram and TikTok. The truth of Dodgson or Carroll was he was a Janist-faced thinker, writer, individual. He looked both ways, both towards the past and the future. And he was writing at a time of profound transformation. In 1865, the world that he knew, the world he grew up in, the world of Oxford colleges and innocent young girls, was being radically transformed by the new technology of industrialization. The world was in complete uproar. It was being turned upside down. And the world that Carroll described in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was both intensely familiar and also unfamiliar. He turned it upside down in the same way as the industrial world turned rural England, traditional England, on its head. In the same way as new technologies like photography were profoundly transforming, perhaps even disfiguring the nature of traditional society. So Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is a book that came out of both a cause and a consequence of a profoundly transformative moment in English history, a transformative moment that will go on to transform the world more broadly through the Industrial Revolution. I think we're living at a similarly transformative time today. Dodgson or Carroll turned the world upside down in Alice in Wonderland, treating a familiar world all too unfamiliarly, re-architecting traditional narrative, conventional reality, a conventional way of seeing the world. And today, we're in the midst of a new revolution, not the Industrial Revolution, but the digital revolution, a digital revolution which is also profoundly changing everything, a revolution that's changed your industry, the advertising and marketing industry, that's changing the financial industry, an industry in which we carry around mini computers, computers which 30 years ago would have filled rooms, computers which were all networked, computers which are ubiquitous, which are powering our social networks. We're living through a revolution in fintech, new currencies now, cryptocurrencies, transforming the very nature of money and an economics and of banking. We're living through new technologies which are transforming the learning industry, the medical industry, the media industry, of course, and every other industry in the world. So I guess it's appropriate to name your conference Digital Wonderland, because the Wonderland of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland are being repeated today in the early part of the 21st century. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but one of my favorite moments in the book, a book of surreal conversation, of characters like the cat, the Mad Hatter, the Queen, the King, Jabberwock, was a remark by the Queen to Alice herself. The Queen said, she was describing her country, "A slow sort of country," said the Queen. "Now here you see it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you need to run twice as fast as that." Let me repeat that. "A slow sort of country," the Queen said. "Now here you see it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you need to run twice as fast as all that." That is, of course, a perfect description of our digital age, particularly in 2020. Now, the issue of speed, of the transformative nature of speed, is something that was wonderfully outlined in a classic 1970 book by Alvin Toffler, the American futurist, in his book Future Shock, which he said that things were just going to keep on speeding up faster and faster and faster. And through Moore's law, and through the ubiquity of networks, of the internet, of smartphones, that speed is radically transforming everything. Now, of course, the reason I'm not with you in Moscow, the reason why I'm talking to you from my home in the Bay Area of California is because of COVID. We're in 2021 now, but I think it's 2020 that will be remembered as the profoundly transformative year in world history, a year in which we saw the victory, the real birth of the digital age. In 2020, we see the victory of digital over analog. We see the increasing centralization of economic power. We see Apple and Amazon becoming $2 trillion companies. We see the origins of Zoom economics, the virtualization of everything, from medical coverage to the destruction of physical offices, to the way in which we are totally today dependent on digital communication to network with others, both on a personal and professional way. We see the rise of increasingly revolutionary technologies like blockchain, like cryptocurrencies, peer-to-peer currencies that are fragmenting all forms of authority, from political to financial, even questioning central banks. It's no coincidence that cryptocurrency took off in 2020, a year which Larry Summers, the ex-president of Harvard, called a hinge year in European history. That last hinge year may have been 1848. The great revolutionary year in European history, 20 years before Dodson wrote Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We see the rise in 2020 of profoundly radical new technologies. We see the rise of virtual reality, of synthetic media, in which we can create and recreate ourselves online in ways which challenge and undermine the truth of physical ontologies. In a way, the world's becoming quite literally an Alice in Wonderland. Now, I'm real, or I hope you believe I'm real, and I'm really talking to you from Northern California. But we have technologies now which allow us to invent myself, invent my voice, invent someone who replicates Andrew Keene, who is a true fake. And that is one of the more disruptive and profoundly innovative things, I think, about the digital revolution. Of course, you in the media industry, in the advertising and marketing business, don't need me to tell you that you have to move twice as fast to just stay in one place in 2020. It's been, or shall we say today at least, 2021. The world of your industry is being radically transformed. You were the first into this revolution in many ways back in the 1990s. And your industry remains as disrupted, as turbulent, and as all-changing as any industry. So I'm not here to tell you about the truth in your industry, but I am here to offer some routes into the future. If we do indeed, as Lewis Carroll suggested or the Queen in Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland suggested that if we're going to get anywhere, we need to move at least twice, maybe 3 times as fast, then the question becomes, how are we going to move? What is the future really like? And that, I think, is why I've been asked to speak. I'm not in your industry. I'm not in the marketing and advertising industries, but I'm familiar enough with it, I think, to understand it. And indeed, I'm very familiar with WPP as a company. I'm an old friend of Martin Sorrell, your old CEO, and a friend of Mark Reed, your current CEO, as well as being someone who, in the pre-COVID age, used to regularly attend Stream, WPP's flagship event, Imagining the Future of Marketing and Advertising. So the question then is, what lies in the future? When Lewis Carroll was writing in 1865, he couldn't imagine class warfare, even though Marx had written the Communist Manifesto in 1848. And of course, the Industrial Revolution swept away the world of Lewis Carroll, of Oxford colleges, of quiet Oxford rivers. And the same is happening today. I'm afraid the news, I'm not sure if it's bad or good, but the news is that the revolution that Toeffler forecasted in 1970, a world of digital speed, is only going to speed up. Things are only going to get faster and faster. There's no end in sight. Americans always like to imagine these events in terms of a baseball game. So people in Silicon Valley will always say, well, in this digital revolution, are we at the bottom of the first or the second of the third inning of a 9-inning game? I'm not going to fall into that trap, which has a kind of Alice in Wonderland surreal nature to it, because everyone always talks about being in the first or the second inning, and it never seems to end until it does end. But what I will say is that we're certainly not near the end. And the industries that I talked about earlier, the financial industry, the health industries, the educational industries, the media industries, they're going to change even more dramatically. And we still have something that I haven't even mentioned in this discussion so far on the horizon: artificial intelligence, smart machines that are already transforming your industry, smart machines that will replace humans, perhaps even people like yourselves, perhaps even people like me, smart machines that will replicate humans on such a sophisticated level that more and more people are asking themselves, what are we going to do in the future when smart machines rule the world? Indeed, the poet laureate, the Nobel laureate, the novelist Kazuo Ishiguro, just came out with a wonderful book called Clara and the Sun, which imagines a world in which smart machines, smart robots, and human beings will be increasingly indistinguishable. So what's going to become of your industry in a post-2021 world? Some things are fairly obvious. I think the giants aren't going to, in many ways, slim down. The Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons, who are already monopolizing your industry, who are, to quote Martin Sorrell, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to quote him at an event like this, given that he doesn't run your company anymore, but who were and continue to eat your lunch. These people aren't going away. These companies aren't getting any smaller. They may not get bigger, but the role of large companies in the so-called startup economy is not going to get any smaller. The other thing I think to bear in mind, though, that's interesting is that advertising isn't going to get any smaller either. Advertising is one of these Janist-faced industries. On the one hand, of course, everything increasingly is disintermediated. Internet, digital users want authenticity, but business models increasingly rely or do indeed rely on advertising revenue to drive them. So I don't see advertising or marketing as going away, but it will change. One of my favorite speeches I gave at the Stream conference was after a night of drinking with Mark Reed, your current CEO. And at one point towards the end of the evening, we were talking about creative industries and creative agencies. And Mark said to me, agencies are like cockroaches. The more you kill, the more there are in the morning. And I think that that is true today, or is as true today in 2021 as it was earlier. The creative industries are not going away. And that means that companies like WPP, for whom, of course, digital companies like Group M, smart companies like Group M are increasingly central, will nonetheless maintain a network of creative agencies as well. But of course, it's the Group M's, the masters of artificial intelligence, the manipulators and organizers and sellers of data who will win in the future. The great question is whether they will win over the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons, whether they will acquire those companies or whether you will be acquired by them. I'm not smart or indeed brave enough, I think, to forecast that. But something else is going on which I think is really important to note. Let's go back to Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland. That work was very nostalgic for the past. And I think we're increasingly seeing, back to Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, it was nostalgic for a simpler England, a pre-industrial England, an England of Oxford dons and pre-adolescent girls innocently sailing up Oxford rivers. I think we are at a moment, ironically enough, in our digital revolution where a similar thing is going to happen. On the digital front, I think there's going to be more and more nostalgia for the analog world, more and more nostalgia. We already see it in the music industry for vinyl. We're seeing it with the growth now of the fashionability of cassettes. I think it's really important that the analog world, which seemed to have been killed in 2020, in the COVID year, by digital, will reappear. I think we long for the physical. I think that what's happened in 2020 is it's reminded us that the physical will never really be replaced. You were all lucky enough to be in a room in Moscow. I don't see your faces. I'm not sure whether you're still awake in this speech, whether you're listening to anything I'm saying. As a speaker, I certainly miss that. And what I see in the future, particularly in the years after 2021, is if not a fetish, certainly a run on the physical. More and more popularity of physical events, of events like Stream, which WPP organizes, of physical events where we meet everyone. Everyone talks about the ubiquity of social networks, of the Facebooks and the Twitters of our world. Those social networks aren't going away, but I think it's really important to remind ourselves that there's still a value for the analog world. When it comes to advertising, I think that physical advertising, real-time events will become increasingly central. Television, of course, is dead in many ways, and I don't think that anyone will ever be nostalgic for the traditional television of the 1950s and 60s. But I do see more and more of a need for experiential advertising, physical, analog advertising, as opposed to digital. You don't need me to tell you that much of the digital advertising industry is not successful. And indeed, many of the metrics are still shrouded in mystery. And one of the things I see in the future is more and more exposing of the truth of the inefficiency of digital advertising. The more metrics we have, the more unsure we have, ironically, of the value of online advertising. And I think that that will continue more and more in the future. What else can I predict about the future? Cryptocurrency, of course, is profoundly changing everything. Everything is going to be digitalized. But we have the rise of something else in 2021, which in many ways I think is kind of interesting. NFTs, non-fungible tokens. As I speak, or last week, the founder of the web, Tim Berners-Lee, sold the digital copy, the original digital copy of his documents which founded the World Wide Web for several $100,000, which he's giving to charity. What I see in the future is more and more of a need for certainty. In spite of the rise of synthetic media, in spite of the rise of media which supposedly will be able to invent this kind of speech, and you won't be able to distinguish between the real me and the fake me, and we have the rise of real fakes, I think there's more and more thirst for reality, for the authentic. And I think with the rise of the NFT economy, of non-fungible tokens, from everything from online art to online documentation to online speeches, I see this as being a very lucrative and important aspect of the future of the digital economy. In other words, as digital and physical come together more and more intimately, the value of digital will be informed more and more by analog. One of the mistakes I think many futurists assume is that digital will beat analog. That's not actually true. What will happen is that digital will be infused by more and more analog values and assumptions. In the same way, in an odd kind of way, that Lewis Carroll inhabited Alice's surreal world with furniture and ideas and language from the middle of the 19th century. Familiarity doesn't breed contempt, rather it breeds innovation. It's also, I think, important to remember that in spite of all the speed, in spite of all the dramatic changes over the last 150 years since Lewis Carroll wrote his great book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, some things haven't changed. Changes in power, in economics. And I think it's really important, if we go back to the middle of the 19th century, to remember that in some ways we're returning to the world of Lewis Carroll. When Lewis Carroll went up that river with the little girls, he was part of an aristocracy. He didn't really need to work, and many of the people he associated with in the Bloomsbury group, pioneers of photography, these were aristocrats who didn't need to work because of the profound inequalities in late 19th century England and indeed in Europe. You don't need me to tell you in Moscow of the nature of aristocracy and the political consequences of inequality. We only need to mention the years 1905 and 1917 in Russia to remind people of their historical significance. Unfortunately, we have returned, I think, to a similar kind of age. The inequalities now in America, I'm talking to you from Silicon Valley, of billionaires, of children who don't need to work, of universities like Stanford, which are finishing schools increasingly for a tech aristocracy, are important for you to bear in mind. It's one of the great ironies and I guess tragedies of the digital revolution. It was supposed to democratize. It was supposed to flatten the playing field. It was supposed to give everyone the same opportunities. But if anything, the digital revolution has actually has established more inequalities, more class divisions. And what we see, I think, particularly in California, is a digital aristocracy, as I said, one now centered in Silicon Valley, built around places like Stanford University. I think this is important for sociologists, it's important for political thinkers, but it's also important for advertisers, because the future in many ways of advertising is in the high end. The future is in the luxury goods business. As in every other dramatic transformation in the digital revolution, it's the center that gets squeezed. I've spent the last 15 years observing this in the media industry. The high end of media is still doing very well, from the BBC to CNN to the New York Times. But it's the middle part, the local newspapers, the smaller publishers, which have been killed. And we have a low end, a free low end. Chris Anderson mistakenly called that the long tail, but it's basically a free end. And the same is true broadly in economic terms. We will have in the future an underclass, the death of the middle class, and an increasingly powerful, in terms of its buying muscle and political and cultural muscle, of a new aristocracy. In contrast, though, with Lewis Carroll's aristocracy of the 19th century, this is an aristocracy that doesn't recognize itself as an aristocracy. You remember the Frenchman, Alexis de Tocqueville, came to America in the 19th century at about the same time that Lewis Carroll was writing his The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland, and he saw a country opposed to aristocracy. America now is the future of aristocracy, but it's not an aristocracy that recognizes it as such. Finally, let me add one more profound change that I think is really important to bear in mind. I've spent the last 20 years warning people of the dangers of unregulated big tech. One of my first supporters and friends was Martin Sorrell. He understood this better than anyone because of the ways that companies like Google and Amazon were challenging the old-fashioned media agencies controlled by holding businesses like WPP. Over the last 15 or 20 years, I've been calling for government action. I've been calling for a degree of regulation, not control, but regulation. One of the things that I see now finally happening in 2021 is a recognition, both in the United States and in Europe, that your industry needs to be regulated. It needs to be regulated in order to create a truly fair playing field. Now, you know how hard it is to compete with the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks of the world. I don't need you to tell me that. In the past, government agencies, the regulators have always trailed behind. They've always been too slow. But I think in the future, regulators are picking up speed. You remember Lewis Carroll's remark in Alice in Wonderland about going twice as fast simply to keep up. I'm not sure if Margaret Vestager or Lena Khan, the new head of the FTC, have been reading Alice in Wonderland, but they're certainly moving twice as fast. They're certainly recognizing that unless they can behave like startup entrepreneurs to take on the giants and control them and manage them and make sure that we can control a degree of what we are now calling surveillance capitalism, nothing will change. So another of my predictions is that government will speed up in the future. Lena Khan, as I said, the new head of the FTC, a young woman, has all the attributes, all the energy, all the speed of a startup entrepreneur. And one of my predictions, particularly in the Biden administration, is that Lena Khan will take on big tech. That's good news for you guys. That's good news because big tech will no longer eat your lunch. But that doesn't mean you can slow down. You can't slow down. You can't go back to the old world. Lewis Carroll knew that in Adventures of Alice in Wonderland. Alice couldn't go back to the old world. The new world beckoned, a new world which was radically transformative, a new world that was foreign, but a new world that was inevitable. The digital world is equally inevitable. The digital world is as inevitable as the working class factories and slums that were growing up around Lewis Carroll's Oxford. And today, the digital world of NFTs, of cryptocurrency, the digital world of ubiquitous social networks, the digital world of smartphones, and above all else, the digital world of artificial intelligence. That's the future. That's a world, a wonderland, a digital wonderland, but a digital wonderland that is equally exciting and scary. I wish you the best of luck with it. You need to survive. You can't slow down. So speed up, keep well, and I hope to see you in person in the not too distant future. Thank you so much.
Спасибо, Энн.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to all our amazing and inspiring speakers on this block. I believe that, of course, we could feel how speakers broadened the horizons that we had, and now the results of our voting. Our voting is closed now, and let us see the results now. Let me remind you that we wanted to see what is your attitude to tracking down your personal data, and we have magic here now. We can see that 69% of our audience are not ready to share their personal data. And those who are ready to share their personal data are 12%. 14% consider it to be important to receive personalized advertisements. So at some point in time, these people will be ready to receive notification about a consumer loan, for instance. So, friends, our conference is about to be over, and now I would like to hand over to CEO Group M, Maria Kolosova, for concluding remarks. So here is the end of our conference, and I really hope that each one of you found something new, something interesting in this digital wonderland in 2021. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much to our clients who are setting ambitious goals for us. Colleagues, we are ready to something new. Thank you very much to our partners who believe in us. Thank you very much to everyone, to all the people who helped the broadcast today happen. We had a 100% broadcast live today. We made it happen. And thank you to my colleagues from Mediacom Agency, MyShare, MaveMaker, and others who are presenting these amazing cases, and they are ready to keep on solving more cases. I'm proud to be a part of your team. Vanya, I must thank you for being a great master of this ceremony. Colleagues, please share your feedback. It helps us become better. It helps us do better. See you later this year and next year. I hope in autumn, and we hope that the pandemic will allow us to see each other in person. Thank you very much and goodbye. Friends, our conference NextM Digital Wonderland is finishing now. We are grateful to everyone who were on this adventure together with us. We hope that we could entertain you, we could inspire you to make some bold moves. For those who failed to join us, well, we will have a record of our conference. It's going to be available on the website, NextM and Medindex. Also, we wanted to say thank you to our courageous and clever and broadening the horizons sponsors. Seller of video advertisement GPMD, Amarena Video Selling, Rambler Group, RBK, Native Row, IMHO, Digital Agency Go Mobile, Hyper EdTech, High Target, Sales House Everest, and Hirsch School of Digital. Friends, we are saying goodbye, but not for a long time.